Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'du, fa'udhu billahi min ash-shaytanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah, it is with the immense fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa azza wa jal that we have reached the conclusion of the path to hell and the path of shaitan. We have discussed in some detail, and I'm sure that you have benefited somewhat, at least something you have taken away to utilize in your daily lives. If not, then those who have been attending frequently have at least benefited from the sohbah and the company of the brothers, which is something that if a person adopts good company and good character, more than likely they will start to make very minute to very great changes in their lives. It is like very rarely, sometimes a person will be overwhelmed with the fear of Allah or the hope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is very seldom that these events take place. Only in very rare circumstances this actually happens. So for the normal person like myself is that sometimes we need good company to watch others praying, to watch others doing good things, or looking at good character, that we actually start to make some changes in our lives. So as you know, it has been discussed in the path of hell. One of the things is to give preference and priority to the nafs. So I will try to break down to the best of my ability to understand what are the different levels of the nafs. I know last week I covered nafs al-amara, which is the lower commanding self. So can anyone give me any examples when can we have this door closed, please? Can anyone provide any examples about when, nothing too lengthy, nothing long or over exaggerated, or the way you when I say maybe if I give you this description, can you define, and if you can provide an example on when I say the nafs al-amara, which is the deprived or the commanding self. Now what does this mean to you? Can anyone provide an example on this point? Anyone want to have a guess at least? Don't be shy. There's no wrong answer. How are you going to know if you think I will stay quiet? Or shall I pick on someone? Ajit Saab's nodding his head inside. Maybe I should. Adam, I want you to have a go at this. You're my first person to the right.
So what would be like your nafs feeling or wants to do, you simply fulfill it?
Can you give an example in the day-to-day life? How would this be? How would you practically understand this?
It could be something that's even lawful or something that's haram. So a lawful one would be, let's say your mum's made food or something and you don't like it. Your nafs would like being kind to take the food or something. So that could also be an example.
Has this recently happened?
Maybe.
MashaAllah. Okay. So I will also explain what the nafs in this level is capable of, in terms of not only that, very good examples, mashallah. So one of the other examples is, now this ties in with the etiquette of majlis. So when, for example, I may say something, or you might hear, a bayan of one of the ustaz or Hazrat Sahab, they may say something, but the words that they are saying or the things that they are saying actually suit you. So it fits into your narrative or your characteristics or your personality. For example, you don't swear, but Hazrat Sahab says, don't swear. So this ties into your characteristic anyway. Or Hazrat Sahab says, don't look at women, but you don't look anyway. So this is very easy. The nafs already has built up this shield against that particular sin. So when you hear something in the nafs, in the bayan, that you should not automatically apply this to another person. It should be as such that when the Quran mentions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Quran, that a reminder benefits a believer. So whatever words are being spoken, you should be ready to apply this to yourself. Who's to say you won't swear ever again? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly reminding His servants through the Sunnah, through the Quran, through the awliya Allah, through mashayikh, and through different means, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly reminding people. So when the nafs, this is one example of how the nafs uses good things in its favor. And also a negative trait can be, is that you provide an example of food, but let's talk something more unlawful, or should we say, it is very inclined towards its own preferences, and it does not take anything else for an answer. So it is not ready to understand or to change its point of view. It's like how they say, I'm not saying this, so sometimes a person who has only ever worked in one type of job, or he's got a certain way of doing things, now you ask him change your way, it is very hard for him to understand also what the other person is saying, but also then to carry out the action. So it is like it's like they say in the real world, or in in normal day-to-day life, old habits die hard. So the nafsul amara, this is the nafs that that if you kill it, it will die hard. Meaning the desires it has actually is a very, very strong urge, like a child, like a baby who only knows how to cry when it's hungry, or cry when it's so its only mode of conversation, communication is to cry. It can't tell you, it can't explain. Second thing is, this is the first point, the nafs does not have a mind. It doesn't have a mind to think. It doesn't have an intellect. Point number 2, the nafs is not you. You are the spirit. So everything that your nafs is desiring, it is not from the wants of the spirit. It is from its own wants. So everything you've made accustomed to having. It is like when they say, as Sahab once gave an example, and they said that when a person says, I am thirsty, when they say, I am thirsty. Now imagine you tell me, I am thirsty, and I say, here you go brother, or sister, here's a cup of water. No, I want Coke instead. This is an example of the nafs. Or I want Pepsi, I want Fanta, I want Sprite, I want cordial drink, I want Ribena. He's not satisfied with the flavor of the water, but that's not you. That's not your spirit. That is the nafs speaking. If you are truly thirsty, the water will suffice. This is one of a very crucial point. Adil, read this point. I'll read it as well, just for camera purposes. So the biggest deception of the nafs is that it makes you think you are it and it is you. How would you understand this point, Adil? Don't get scared. Hopefully no one has nightmares over this alien looking thing. I hope no one is going to get scared. Because if you're going to get scared, then maybe you should close your eyes. So this is not, maybe this is your nafs actually. If you knew that this is your nafs looks like this, maybe you would stop entertaining it as much as you do. So Adil, you want to explain this point, how you understand it, as opposed to what it might actually mean.
So, for example, say your nafs desires something, instead of thinking that it's what you desire, what your spirit desires, you think that it's not what you actually desire, it's what your nafs desires.
Mhm. That's one of the things. One way to understand it, but I'll give you a more simpler way to actually evaluate this point. Now, when the nafs is the biggest deception, shall I word it in a completely different way? It's to make you think it doesn't exist. It's to make you feel and think that the nafs does not exist at all. It is a completely, that you are all one. The spirit doesn't exist, the body, the mind, the heart, there is no separate components to the body, that everything that desires, that's all you. It's like how now what should be coming to your mind is, now it makes sense when a person says, oh, I feel like a woman. If a man says, I feel like a woman, or a woman says, I feel like a man. Nowadays, they come out with all kinds of wacky business. I feel like a dog. I feel like a spider. I feel like a scarecrow. You know, you see the stuff online and you think, you know, A'udhu Billah min zalik, how is this, you know, what has happened to the person? You know, and you hear some of the stories, you know, that they tell, and you're thinking, you know, am I polluting my own mind with this filth? That, and A'udhu Billah, that they say, you know, and you know, like nowadays, especially women, nowadays men are doing it as well. You know, men aren't even excused from it. So they feel like we don't fit into a certain beauty narrative, or we don't fit into a certain look. So they tamper with their face, they tamper with their body parts. Ji uncle.
Just to give a point of view on this and a live example, I sit in this masjid and one of the boys read the Quran, is a Quran.
Mhm.
He's yawning. I saw few days, I keep seeing that, and I had a conversation with him. Said to him, are you tired? He said, I feel really tired.
Mhm.
I said, okay, relax a little bit, then read Quran and etc. So he continued this day in, day out. So then I asked him a question. I said, how do you feel when you go out?
Mhm.
He said, it all goes away. I'm not tired.
Mhm.
So I said to him, what time do you go to bed? He said, about 12 o'clock. So I said, you go home from here about 9 o'clock. So you're not tired. Why are you yawning? I said, explain to him that's your nafs.
Mhm.
Doesn't want to be here.
Mhm.
And you don't know this is the nafs.
Mhm. So the nafs had become bored.
Nafs is bored. He doesn't want to be here.
Mhm.
Soon as you go out, you're happy.
Ji ji.
Actually, you're not tired.
Mhm.
I said, you need to understand the nafs. So this is not the nafs. This is not you. The nafs is bored.
Ji ji.
So the example which I'm giving, some people are struggling to think that he used to think that he's tired.
Mhm.
Well, when we explained to him that it's the nafs which is tired, because once you go out, you don't feel tired.
Ji. MashaAllah.
So that's one of the
Jazakallah. Thank you,
one of
uncle.
the way. But the other way to understand this nafs, you have to read about it again and again.
Uh-huh.
When you read about it, it will sink in because you reflect. One is listening to Byan and it goes out. Then you have to study it, and again you put yourself into that situation and you say, yes, I do feel like that.
Ji, Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Uncle. Valuable input as usual, like this. Some suggestions are given. So, inshallah, we carry on. So, point number 4. If you've given into the nafs just once, it does not mean you've lost the war. You've lost one battle. So, if the nafs is persisting in something, for example, I'll use the example just provided about the the hafiz who's become tired. So, even he might combat this or he might lose this battle once. He yawns, he's become bored, he goes outside. But really, this is something, the nafs is becoming bored. But sometimes it can actually be combated in other ways. For example, mashayikh and other people actually advise, the awliya Allah have advised. The reason why the nafs is becoming bored is because majority of the hifz or the hafiz of the Quran don't understand what they're reading. Now, if they were to read an English book, they might not have the same reaction. The nafs might be more entertained. But that is what the nafs is in search of. The nafs is in constant search of entertainment. It wants to be entertained. So how it will be entertained is through how it is entertained through the means of your body. For example, how it can be entertained. A person who, maybe he, like Adam gave the example about food, he wants takeaway. So his nafs has become entertained via the tongue through takeaway. So but just because you have been defeated one time does not mean you've lost the entire war. Your battle, the striving against the nafs, this is why they say jihad al-nafs. The battle against the nafs is a constant daily battle. And it is a lifelong thing. It is not something that can be achieved overnight. So the next stage of the nafs is nafs al-lawama, the second stage of the nafs. This type of nafs is something that it will almost accept that it won't get what it wants, but it tries to blame others for the shortcomings of itself. So it is not entirely at fault, its own nafs, but it will blame the nafs of others. For example, the reason I swore is because so and so pulled out of the road. Or the reason I did drugs because of this. Even though usually at this point a person is sinning less. So the reason I did such and such a thing, so they blame others. So it is not fully accepting its own loss, its own defeat. So it tries to disguise itself in the faults of others. If you give in to manifest the evil desire of the nafs, only then you will become sinful, not before. So if the nafs has an urge of something, until you carry out that amal, meaning manifest that action, you won't become sinful. Point 6, inshallah. The nafs is a spiritual being, not physical being. So it doesn't actually have a body as such. The nafs only wants to enjoy and manifest evil desire with the body, mind, heart and soul, but you are not liable, sinful merely for its desire. So we're going to try and speed through some of these points. One should and can admonish their own nafs as a way of admonishing themselves. So this is one very important point. The nafs does not think ahead, meaning it does not have any consequences for its actions. It does not think. It doesn't think about, if I was to harm this person or swear at this person, it may have a consequence. If I eat this food or do this drug or look at this woman, it will have a consequence. But the nafs does not have this ability to understand the consequences of its actions, because the nafs itself won't be the one. Well, in a way it will be. It's like how they say, sometimes when a person does something wrong, say they find someone on the street they don't like and they hit him, and then a few days later, a group of people come and hurt you, they hit you back. But you get humbled in this event. Meaning it's hurt you so much, it's hurt your ego so much that you think, I am never going to do that again. I'm never going to do that again. I will actually be more careful next time. So the intellect starts to develop, this sense of consequence to assist the nafs. But the nafs itself won't actually be able to understand this until it becomes humbled in this matter. So that now you should be starting to understand that first, my nafs maybe is ignorant, is arrogant. Now, through humility, I can actually start to get rid of some of this through actions of serving others, serving creation, serving people, serving one's parents, serving your brothers. Through this, a person can actually start to humble the nafs. And the nafs will think, actually, these are my alternatives. So as I've already mentioned this, it only wants enjoyment. Now it lives for the moment. How many people have you heard say this? Countless, on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, all over Facebook. There used to be a saying, it's not so commonly used anymore, YOLO, you only live once, so I'll do whatever I want. And Mashaykh funnily mentioned that, as I mentioned, they said that, okay, if a person says, I will do whatever I want, no problem. When you get ill, get rid of the illness. When you're about to, when something, calamity is about to, stop the calamity. When you're about to die, stop death. If you think you can do, if you think you're all powerful and you can do whatever you want, do these things. But you can't do whatever you want. You're in a very limited place. So the only limitations you have are the positions and places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you in. So this mindset of you only live once is foolish actually. Because in 100 years' time, none of us will be here. None of us. I can't say for certainty, but I'll say 150 years, you will not exist on this earth. A day will come, you can last glance at your mother, a last glance at your brother, last glance at your father, last glance at your father. There will be a time you last glance on the blue skies, on the hills, in your house. Because once those eyes shut for the last time, they won't open again. It's weird, isn't it? It's strange, very strange matter. That even though after you pass away, a person can open your eyes, but you can't see. Your ears are open, but you can't hear. Your nose is still open, you can't smell. Your tongue and mouth is still there, but you can't talk. Because once Allah has taken the soul and the spirit from your body, that's it. You cease to exist. You are but a mere memory in most people. What do you want to be remembered for? Do you want to be remembered that I was that YOLO guy? I was that guy who did whatever I wanted and done it however I felt like it? Or do you want to be that person who is remembered as a good person, of good akhlaq, good character? He served creation, he served mankind, he done the dawah, he gave bayans, he helped people, he was a charitable person. How do you want to be remembered? The nafs does not care about the thing, is it halal or haram. The nafs changes from good to bad, but it also changes from good to bad. So, meaning, just because you think you have purified some parts of your body, of your mind, of your heart, does not mean you are safe. This is a lifelong journey, and it will be a lifelong journey all the way up until you have passed away. This is a never-ending story, that right up until the point that you begin purifying yourself, meaning that's your spiritual birth, up until you die, the shaitan is not going to stop hammering you. He's going to continue whispering into your heart. So even though you may be good today, does not guarantee tomorrow you will be good. And if you are a bad person today, you can still become good. It doesn't mean you are evil forever, and it doesn't mean you are good forever. A person can fall into a trap and into loss. The nafs only become purified by striving against it, by doing jihad against the nafs. Nowadays you're hearing about jihad with the sword, this type of jihad is the greatest jihad. It is the greatest jihad against oneself. Yes, the companions went to jihad against the munafiqeen, the Quraysh and non-Muslims and the kuffar of that time. But even then, they had to be purified in order to do that, to go to that jihad. Because it was the munafiqeen, they had not reached any level of purification, they would leave the battle ranks, some people. Because they weren't purified, they was not ready to give it all for Allah and His Messenger. They were not ready, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were not capable. So ask yourself, tomorrow if you could ask yourself a new hypothetical situation, that if, for example, the call for jihad came, I don't think so most people would be capable. Nowadays, if a needle pricks you, you start screaming like you've never felt such pain in your life. So this is the reality. We have bellies, we have overweight, we can't run, we can't walk, and then we think, this is a foolish thing to think and believe. Firstly, whatever is inside you needs to become purified, the nafs, the heart, the mind, the body. Then when these type of things, even then, in most people's life, it won't actually occur. But these are it's like when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that a time will come that the Sahaba, they would have to follow 90% of the religion in order to obtain salvation. 90%. 90% meaning they would have to go to jihad, give up their wealth, give up their health, every single thing they would have to sacrifice. But they said, my future ummah, they will only have to follow 10% of my religion, 10% of the religion in order to obtain salvation. In that 10%, that is purifying yourself. These are not my words, these are the words of our blessed teacher. No, really, only thing I give you examples, this is mostly from the teachings of our mashayikh. Nothing has come from myself. So a person should not have this attitude, I am listening to him. These are from Hassab's teachings. So in that 10%, it's like they say, Prophet ﷺ mentioned that when that time does come, meaning that 10%, this is the time of those 10%. Hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and grab onto it with your molar teeth, with your back teeth. Don't let go. If you are going to let go, you will fall into like in previous diagrams I've shown you, into that pit and that lava of sin. So grab onto it and hold firm. Because if you let go, then it is disaster. Do what it does not, so the nafs does what it does not want to do, as long as this is within Sharia. So do whatever you want to do, as long as it is within Sharia. Do not do what it wants you to do, as long as this is within Sharia. So it becomes, this is inshallah my final point. So the nafs will become weaker and weaker until eventually it submits to you, and this is one of the higher levels of the nafs. The nafs iradiya, meaning, or the inspired, the nafs al-mulhama, that this is one of the highest, when you're reaching the point, nafs al-mutma'inna means this is the beginning point of when a person reaches nafs al-mutma'inna. It starts to become weak. That when you say to it, actually I will have water, it will have water, even though it desires coke or fizzy drink or cordial. So inshallah, I will end on that point. If anyone has any questions, inshallah, they can ask them. If not, then inshallah we will close the session. Jazakallah.